You know, usually when you buy a really complicated piece of machinery, it comes with a troubleshooting manual, right?
Oh, yeah, like those dry mechanical little books.
Exactly. Like if the red light blinks, you check the battery. If the gears are grinding, you just, add some oil. It's super binary. Clean.
Right, because it's cause and effect in its most basic visible form. The physical world is, well, it's very accommodating that way.
It is. But then you look at the human experience. Like navigating our ego, our ambitions, suffering, just the sudden crazy storms of life. And suddenly you realize, nobody handed you a troubleshooting manual for your own mind.
Definitely not.
Yeah, the diagnostic landscape is honestly pretty murky. But the thing is, humanity has been dealing with this for thousands of years. And it turns out ancient cultures didn't actually leave us completely in the dark.
No, they really didn't.
They actually left us a diagnostic manual. They disguised it as a story.
Mhm.
So today, for our deep dive, we are looking at this really fascinating script from a Hindi channel that's dedicated to Hindu Dharma and Jyotish Shastra, which is astrology.
Yeah, and it's a very rich script.
It really is. We're pulling apart their comprehensive breakdown of something called the Satyanarayana Khata. But, our mission today is not just to, observe some ancient religious ritual from the outside.
Right, we're going way deeper than that.
Exactly. We are going to decode a literal psychological and spiritual roadmap for navigating human suffering, managing the ego, and honestly understanding the true cost of success. I'm incredibly eager to get into this, and I know you've dug really deeply into the historical context here, so I want to hand the floor over to you. Where does this text actually originate?
Oh, I would love to set the stage for this because honestly, the origins tell you everything about the intent here. So this narrative originates from a specific section called the Rivakand, and that is within the ancient Skanda Purana.
Okay, Skanda Purana.
Yeah, and the Skanda Purana is one of the massive, just foundational texts of Hindu literature. It's filled with cosmic geography and this really deep philosophy. But to truly understand what we are dealing with today, we kind of have to pull apart the title itself.
Right.
The Satyanarayana Vrakatha. Every single word there is like a structural pillar.
So let's take it apart. What are we actually looking at?
Okay, so first we have the compound word, Satyanarayana. Now, Satya translates to the absolute unchanging truth.
Unchanging truth. Got it.
Yeah, we're talking about the ultimate reality that just does not shift with time or, cultural trends or human opinions. It is the absolute bedrock.
Wow, okay.
And then Narayan represents the supreme divine consciousness, but specifically it's the consciousness that dwells within every single living being.
Wait, so it's not a deity sitting on a cloud somewhere passing judgment. It's like an internal mechanism.
Exactly. That is the core of it. God is essentially being personified as the eternal truth that's residing inside you.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Right. And then we have the word vrat, which translates to a profound vow, or like a fast, basically a deliberate restriction to focus the mind.
Right.
And finally, katha, which simply means the story or the narrative vehicle that's used to deliver the message. So when you put it all together, this isn't just a tale about a god.
It's something else.
Yeah, it is a narrative designed to help you make a vow to align yourself with the unchanging absolute truth of the universe.
That is profound. But, knowing that this comes from such a massive, ancient, and honestly intimidating text like the Skanda Purana, I have to ask, who is this actually written for?
That's a really good question.
Because my assumption with ancient texts is always that they're highly exclusive. Usually they're reserved for the priestly class or maybe ascetics who have renounced the world and are living in caves up in the Himalayas.
Yeah, I mean, that assumption is incredibly common. But that's exactly what makes this specific text so radical. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It explicitly states its target audience right at the very beginning, and it is radically inclusive. The text claims it is for householders who are seeking peace in their chaotic family lives.
Oh, wow.
It's for merchants and professionals wanting success in their daily work. It's for people drowning in debt or, those battling physical illness. It even specifically mentions couples desiring children.
So everyday people.
Exactly. You don't have to retreat to a mountain peak to find enlightenment. The text is saying you can, and you actually should, practice this while living right in the middle of a noisy, demanding society.
It's just incredibly practical, like a spiritual manual for the person stuck in traffic.
Basically, yeah.
So how does the narrative actually kick off? How do we enter this world?
So the story begins with this cosmic framing device called the Mangalakcharan, which means the auspicious beginning. And we're introduced to Narada Muni. He is a great wandering celestial sage. Essentially, he's a cosmic traveler who can just move between realms. And he is visiting Earth. And while he's walking among us, he witnesses the immense, crushing weight of human suffering.
Like poverty and disease.
Exactly. He sees people struggling with severe poverty, terrible diseases, and just deep, deep despair. Now, the thing is, Narada isn't just a detached observer taking notes. He is moved by a profound, overwhelming empathy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he feels their pain so acutely that he immediately leaves the earthly realm and travels straight up to Vaikuntha.
And Vaikuntha is?
It's the cosmic, unshakable abode of Lord Vishnu. And he goes there to demand a solution for humanity.
Wait, I always thought enlightenment meant detachment. Like, you achieve a state where human suffering just doesn't bother you anymore because it's all an illusion anyway.
Right, that's a huge misconception.
But here the sage is deeply stressed out by earthly problems.
It's a beautiful contradiction, honestly. The text is establishing early on that true spiritual elevation isn't cold detachment. It's supreme empathy.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, divine grace only activates, like the door only opens, when a true devotee genuinely feels the pain of others. Narada's empathy is the absolute catalyst for the entire mechanism of salvation here.
So what does he do?
He stands before Lord Vishnu and just straight up asks, what is the cure for their suffering?
Okay, well, let me guess. Because in these ancient epics, the solution usually involves gathering, like thousands of priests burning literal tons of exotic offerings and performing a royal sacrifice that takes decades and bankrupts an entire kingdom.
You would completely expect that, given the era. But Vishnu's answer subverts all of those expectations. He does not prescribe a massive royal sacrifice.
What does he offer?
He offers the Satyanarayana Vrat. He tells Narada about this incredibly simple, accessible ritual that can be done by anyone, anywhere, in just a few hours.
Really? Just a few hours?
Yeah. The core philosophy Vishnu lays out is that reaching peace doesn't require wealth or high status. Living truthfully with a pure heart is the ultimate vow. The physical ritual itself is really just a symbolic anchor for that inner truth.
I mean, the theory makes total sense, but how does the text translate this to human life on the ground? Like, a cosmic conversation is great and all, but how does it help the guy who's literally drowning in debt?
Well, the text answers that by immediately zooming in on human stories.
Wow.
So we meet our first human subject. He's an extremely poor, but incredibly honest woodcutter living in the ancient city of Kashi.
Okay.
He is at the absolute bottom of the socioeconomic ladder. He struggles daily just to put a meager meal in front of his family. But despite the grueling nature of his life, his mind remains clear and his heart is pure.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. But one morning, he goes to the forest to chop wood, and he meets an old Brahmin.
Who is actually Lord Vishnu in disguise.
Exactly, you guessed it. The disguised Vishnu approaches the woodcutter and asks him why he looks so exhausted and burdened. And the woodcutter, retaining his honesty, just pours his heart out about his poverty and his fear for his family's survival.
And Vishnu tells him about the vow.
Yes. Vishnu smiles and advises him to perform the Satyanarayana Vrat. But he doesn't just give him a vague philosophical concept, He gives him a very specific physical requirement, which is the offering of Panchamrit.
Now, I want to focus on this because the source material breaks down this offering into 5 very specific ingredients.
Yes, the text is meticulous about these 5 ingredients that had to be mixed together. So first is milk, which represents baseline purity.
Okay, milk is purity.
Second is curd, which represents stability, because milk has to endure time, and chemically transform to become curd.
Right.
Third is ghee, or clarified butter, which represents prosperity and the result of intense purification by fire. Fourth is honey, representing natural inherent sweetness. And finally, sugar, representing the sweetness of life that we actively cultivate and add ourselves.
Wait a minute. I'm listening to you list these out like milk, curd, ghee, honey, sugar. On the surface, it sounds like we're just making a dessert.
It does sound like a recipe.
But looking at the symbolism here, this isn't a food recipe at all. This is a blueprint for a resilient human psyche.
Oh, wow. How do you mean?
Think about it. To survive the brutal conditions of life without becoming a terrible person, you need the baseline purity of your intentions. That's the milk.
Right.
But milk spoils easily, so you also need stability and resilience, which is the curd, so you don't just crack under pressure.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, and you need the richness that only comes from enduring the fire of hard work, which is the ghee. And then you have to maintain your inherent joy, the honey, while also actively working to make your life sweet, the sugar, so you don't become bitter along the way. It's literally a psychological operating
I
system.
love that. That is a brilliant way to frame it. It is
Right.
absolutely an internal operating system.
Mm.
And the narrative actually proves this. Because after the woodcutter gets this recipe and makes the vow to perform the ritual, he doesn't just, sit down under a tree and wait for a bag of gold to materialize.
Right, he still has to go to work.
Yes. The text specifically notes that on that very day, he picked up his axe, found better wood in the forest, and got a fantastic price at the market.
Action.
Exactly.
Mm.
He used that new wealth to perform the ritual, but he didn't hoard it. He fed his neighbors and shared his new prosperity.
Mm.
So the formula the text lays out is undeniable. It's action, combined with faith, combined with service to others, that creates the miracle.
It is an active participatory process.
Very much so.
So the woodcutter represents the baseline formula, action plus faith. But human nature is super complex, and as we move forward in the text, we get into much deeper psychological territory.
We really do. The narrative shifts to introduce the concept of sankalp through the story of a destitute Brahmin.
Okay, Sankalp, let's unpack that.
So culturally, a sankalp is not just a casual promise. It is a profound, unshakable vow. It means achieving perfect alignment between your mind, your speech, and your actions.
That sounds intense.
It is. When all three of those are pointed at a single goal, the text suggests the energy is so powerful that the universe bends to accommodate it.
Which is incredibly rare, honestly, because as humans, our default state is just complete cognitive dissonance.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we think one thing, we say something completely different to our boss or our spouse, and then our actual behavior contradicts both of those things.
That dissonance is the very thing that weakens our intentions. We leak energy everywhere. But this Brahmin, he manages a pure sankalp. He aligns himself completely and decides to perform the vrat.
And he's destitute, so how does he afford it?
Well, through unexpected alms, he gets the meager resources he needs, but the text introduces a critical narrative twist right here.
What happens?
While the poor Brahmin is doing this simple, quiet ritual in his modest home, King Chandrachud, who is a mighty, wealthy ruler with a massive entourage, is out hunting in the adjacent forest.
Okay.
He hears the chanting, stops his royal procession, walks into the poor man's house, and sits down on the floor to listen to the story and accept the food.
Wait, really? From a sociological perspective, an ancient king stopping a royal hunt to sit on the floor of a beggar's hut is a massive disruption of the hierarchy.
It is a radical leveling of the playing field. The text is emphasizing that the ultimate truth operates entirely outside of human social structures.
It doesn't care about the crown.
Exactly.
Sure.
The ritual works exactly the same for the begging Brahmin as it does for the mighty king. The king takes the same vow, returns to his palace, performs the ritual with his own resources, and his kingdom prospers.
Wow.
It establishes that in the eyes of the absolute truth, there is no caste, no wealth, no status. Only the purity of the sankalp.
I mean, I see the logic, but let's be honest, it's relatively easy to make a pure, desperate promise to the universe when you're starving like the Brahmin.
That's true.
You'll promise literally anything when you're at rock bottom. The real test of an operating system isn't how it works in safe mode. It's how it handles a massive influx of data. Like, what happens when the vow actually works and you become wildly successful?
You've hit on the exact vulnerability the text explores next. The narrative anticipates human nature perfectly.
Oh, I bet.
We meet Sadhu, who is a highly ambitious and wealthy merchant. He wants to expand his legacy, so he vows that if he is blessed with a child and his business ventures succeed, he will perform the puja.
And let me guess, he gets what he wants.
He gets everything. His business booms, and he is blessed with a beautiful daughter named Kalavati. But then, the predictable human flaw kicks in.
He forgets.
He gets busy. He tells his wife, oh, we'll do the ritual later. Then it becomes, we'll do it when she gets a little older. Then we'll do it when she gets married.
Oh, he just keeps kicking the can down the road.
Exactly. He constantly delays his sankalp. He pushes off his core alignment. Eventually, his daughter marries, and he takes his new son-in-law on a massive, highly lucrative sea trading voyage, completely abandoning the promise he made.
And this is where the story takes a very dark turn, doesn't it?
It does. While they are out on the open ocean, a terrifying, unnatural storm hits their ship, bringing their massive trade vessel to a dead halt. And simultaneously, back home in the city, the local king's treasury is robbed. The royal guards are searching for the thieves, and through the series of misunderstandings, they falsely accuse the merchant's wife and his daughter, Kalavati.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The two innocent women are thrown into a dark dungeon. All their wealth is confiscated by the state, and they are left with absolutely nothing.
Okay, I have to step in here and push back on this a little bit,
Sure.
because this is the part of ancient mythology that always loses me. A guy gets too busy at work, he forgets a Thanksgiving dinner, and a universal force of absolute truth summons a literal hurricane and throws his innocent wife and daughter in a dungeon.
I know, it sounds harsh.
It sounds like a mafia boss extracting protection money. It feels incredibly petty and vindictive for a supreme consciousness.
I completely understand why it reads that way on the surface. It
Yeah.
really looks like a transactional punishment. But if we dig into the actual mechanics the text is describing, we find a much deeper psychological truth.
Okay, reframe this for me.
These aren't vindictive punishments raining down from an angry god. They are the natural, inevitable consequences of arrogance.
Arrogance.
Yes, the text is using a dramatic narrative to illustrate what happens when we lose our foundational alignment. When humans become highly successful, we develop a sort of spiritual amnesia. We start believing we built the entire universe with our own two hands.
Ah, the illusion of the entirely self-made individual.
Exactly. The merchant's busyness wasn't just a scheduling conflict. It was a symptom of deep arrogance. When you break your sankalp, your core alignment with truth, you start making different decisions.
You get reckless.
You become sloppy. You trust the wrong people. You take unnecessary risks because you feel invincible. The storm and the imprisonment represent the total chaos that floods into our lives when our foundation crumbles.
Oh, I see.
It is the architectural collapse of a life built on ego instead of truth. The hardships are a wake-up call. And the narrative supports this, because the moment the merchant is humbled, the moment he remembers his vulnerability and repents, the chaos subsides.
Just like that.
Just like that. He fulfills his vow right there on the shore, and instantly, back home, the true thieves are caught, and his family is freed. The universe wasn't demanding protection money, it was forcing unnecessary course correction.
Okay, viewing it as the structural collapse of an arrogant life makes so much more sense. It's not about the ritual itself, it's about the grounding that the ritual maintains.
Exactly.
But his family isn't out of the woods yet, right? Because his daughter, Kalavati, makes her own mistake shortly after.
The narrative shifts to focus on her. So the merchant and his son-in-law are finally sailing home. Back at the house, the wife and daughter are holding the puja to give thanks for their freedom.
Makes sense.
Kalavati is called to sit, hear the story, and receive the prasad, which is the sacred offering at the end of the ritual. But she hears the commotion at the docks. She is so thrilled and distracted by the news that her husband has returned that she skips taking the prasad and sprints out of the house, straight to the harbor.
Which is such a deeply human moment, honestly. She just wants to see her husband after thinking she might never see him again.
It's completely understandable. But the text is rigorous about the mechanics of grace. Because she casually rejected the prasad, she arrives at the docks only to see her husband and his ship mysteriously vanish beneath the waves. She is left standing on the shore, totally devastated.
So we have to unpack this. Why is skipping a small piece of sweet food a catastrophic system failure?
Because we have to look at what prasad actually is. The word itself breaks down into pra and sad, which roughly translates to ultimate grace or divine happiness.
Okay.
In this framework, prasad is not just physical calories. It is energetic grace. It is the physical manifestation of the universe's blessing. To be offered it and to casually brush it aside because you are rushing towards your own immediate desire is a rejection of positive energy.
Wow. It's like being handed the keys to a house, but you throw them in the dirt because you got a text message.
That's a great analogy. You are rejecting the profound for the immediate. Once Kalavati realizes her error, she repents, returns to the house, and accepts the prasad with deep reverence. The moment she aligns herself, her husband and the ship reappear, safe and sound.
So we have the merchant who forgot out of arrogance and the daughter who forgot out of excitement. Both were mistakes born of distraction. But what happens when the rejection of truth isn't an accident?
What do you mean?
What happens when someone intentionally looks at the truth and rejects it out of pure, unfiltered ego?
That brings us to the final and most crucial phase of the narrative. It is the ultimate fall of the ego.
Tell me about it.
We are introduced to King Tungatwaj. He is a monarch of unimaginable wealth, incredible power, and absolute pride. He is out hunting in the deep forest. Notice the setting. He's in the forest to dominate nature, to assert his power over life and death.
Right.
While riding, he comes across a group of simple, impoverished cowherds who are sitting in the dirt under a tree. performing the Satyanarayana puja.
And these cowherds would have been the absolute lowest of the low in the social hierarchy of that era, like completely invisible to someone like a king.
Completely invisible until they approach him. When they finish their humble ritual, they respectfully approach the king on his magnificent horse and offer him their prasad.
Oh, boy.
The king looks down at them, he looks at their simple, unrefined food, and his ego flares up like a fire. He refuses to touch it. He refuses to even bow his head in acknowledgement.
Just total disrespect.
His internal monologue is essentially, I am a Modi sovereign. I do not take leftovers from the hands of peasants. And he turns his horse and leaves in absolute disgust.
He intentionally rejects the truth because of the package it came in.
Yes, and the consequences for this intentional rejection are absolute devastation. It's not a storm this time, it is a total dismantling of his identity.
What happens to him?
As a direct result of this pure arrogance, his entire world collapses. His sons fall ill and pass away, his immense wealth is drained, his kingdom falls into absolute ruin and rebellion.
Unbelievable.
He is stripped of every single thing that made him a king, left with nothing but his own breath and a terrifying void.
The system crashes completely. He didn't just ignore the troubleshooting manual, he threw it in a fire.
Exactly. And in absolute desperation, roaming his ruined kingdom, he consults wise astrologers. And they don't give him a magical incantation to fix it.
What do they tell him?
They deliver the harshest diagnosis possible. They say, your downfall is entirely your own doing. You insulated yourself with your ego. You insulted the absolute truth because it was handed to you by someone you deemed beneath you.
So how does a human being come back from that level of toxic ego? Is there like a recovery protocol?
There is, but it requires grueling, absolute humiliation. The text details his surrender. The king takes off his royal garments, the physical symbols of his ego.
Okay.
He puts on simple rough cloth. He walks entirely barefoot, feeling the stones and dirt all the way back into the deep forest. He actively seeks out those exact same impoverished cowherds.
Wow, he goes back to them.
When he finds them, he physically bows down to them. He apologizes, sits in the jote with them, listens to the truth, and eats their simple prasad. Only when his ego is completely and utterly shattered, when he accepts that he is no better than the poorest man alive, is his life slowly restored.
If we synthesize this whole journey, from the poor woodcutter to the arrogant merchant to the ruined king, the underlying architecture of this text is remarkably consistent.
It really is.
The absolute truth, whatever you choose to call it, does not care about your tax bracket. It doesn't care about your corporate title, your follower count, or your lineage. It only responds to your foundational honesty and your humility. Ego isn't just a character flaw. It is the ultimate barrier between you and reality.
It is the wall that blocks out the light. The text uses the cultural language of ancient rituals and deities, but the psychological mechanisms are completely timeless.
Okay, as we pull this all together, let's crystallize this for you listening right now. From this vast ancient narrative, we can distill 5 core operational rules for navigating your life.
Let's do it.
Rule 1. Combine your action with faith. You can't just hope for a better life. You have to pick up the axe and chop the wood, but do it with pure intention.
Perfect.
Rule 2. Keep your promises. When you make a sankalp, a deep vow to yourself or others, align your mind, speech, and action. Do not let cognitive dissonance tear you apart.
Rule 3. Maintain your grounding. When the storm clears and you finally get the success you wanted, don't suffer from spiritual amnesia. Remember the forces and the people that helped you get there.
Yes, gratitude.
Rule 4. Never reject a blessing, no matter how inconvenient it seems. Accept the prasad of life, even if it interrupts your busy schedule.
And rule 5, the heaviest one of all. Destroy your ego before it destroys you. Humble yourself before the universe forces you to sit in the dirt.
So, thinking about your own operating system right now,
Yeah.
where is the friction?
Yeah, where are you stuck?
Are you delaying a promise you made to yourself years ago because you got quote-unquote busy?
Mm-hmm.
Are you letting your pride block a massive blessing just because it came from a source you thought was beneath you?
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a final thought to really sit with. The entire text hinges on this concept of Satya, the absolute unchanging truth. But we live in a modern era where truth is treated as a highly customized, subjective accessory.
We hear phrases like my truth or your truth constantly.
Exactly. So if you were to genuinely apply the mechanics of this ancient text to your modern life, what would it actually look like for you to surrender your personal, curated ego to an absolute objective reality? How much of your current identity, your deeply held opinions, and your pride would you have to let go of to finally accept that truth?
It makes you realize that maybe we do have a troubleshooting manual for the human mind after all. The only question is whether we have the courage to actually read the instructions.